Obviously, focus right now is all big, beautiful bill all the time. How confident are you that the president's July 4th deadline is realistic?
I'm very confident, and I'm confident because this bill has got so many good things that are good for America. I think every single person in the Senate and the House can go home with a victory. Because how can you resist going back to your congressional district or your home state and saying, hey, I've been part of the largest tax cut in American history. I've helped secure our borders. I've helped make sure that we're going to have affordable, reliable energy. And I've got no tax on tips. I've got no tax on overtime. I mean, anybody who works for a living in this country should be celebrating the day this bill passed. And I think that both houses are going to find a way to get to yes on this.
Obviously, big news in the Senate today, the parliamentarian ruling that a number of those provisions that would have provided some of the biggest cost savings in the measure can't proceed. Firstly, are you supportive at all of those calls to overrule her? And if not, how big of a challenge is it then to win back some of those conservatives who were, a little bit difficult to win in the first place before they struck down for these cost saving measures?
Well, I'm confident, and of course, I think that we've got great leadership with Senator Thune and Speaker Johnson to work their way through it. And I think, again, even though this is the one big, beautiful bill, this particular Congress this isn't their only chance. They're going to have more opportunities. If there's something they felt strongly about that doesn't make it in here, they have an opportunity. They can come back on July 5th and go to work and start working on the next bill if they want to do that. So this isn't the end of the world if one particular thing, but I think the most important thing is there are so many great things in this bill that this bill ought to go forward. It ought to get passed. It ought to be a part of a celebration for America on the 4th of July because this is going to mean so much, especially to working families.
Obviously, one of the more contentious aspects of this bill that's relevant to you as Secretary of Interior is Senator Lee's proposal to sell off some public lands in the western United States. Is that something you're supportive of?
Well, as far as I understand, that's one of the pieces that hasn't made it through. I know that an earlier version that Senator Lee had did not make it into the bill. And of course, there's been a ton of misinformation about this, but our job is to, we can protect America's beautiful and best places, all of our national parks, all of our wildlife refuges. But Americans need to also understand that we've got over 700 million acres of federal land. And in a few states, like his home state of Utah or in Nevada, we've got Utah 65% federal land, Utah 80%. In places like this, we're completely landlocked. And you've got communities like Las Vegas or around Salt Lake City where to help make sure that we've got affordable housing. There's ways where we can dispose of land that's not recreational land, not hunting land, not land that's part of the park system. In a way, either swapping it with a state, but just putting that land to more productive use. And then the sale of that land can go back towards improving recreation, improving access to federal lands, and it can go towards paying down the federal deficit. So it's a very sound process on the margin. But even what Senator Lee is talking about was like less than 0.5% of all the federal land we own in the country. But whether or not it's even in this bill or not remains to be seen. It wasn't part of the core original bill. It was not part of the House version, and so it's not a central topic. I don't think anybody is really spending much time thinking about it up there.
To that point, one of my colleagues was able to catch up with your predecessor in the Trump administration, now Congressman Ryan Zinke, who said that he will not support any bill that has any measure of selling off public lands. Is that sort of your position, or would you be supportive of any bill that has any component of Senator Lee's proposal?
Well, I think Ryan Zinke's a friend of mine, a smart guy, and served our country in a great way. I know that that's his position, and he's part of the reason why that there's no provision that made it in the House bill. So he's been effective on his side of the chamber on that point of view. But I have a responsibility to steward our nation's resources, but I also know we did we sold 40 acres in Nevada for affordable housing. I was out there with Secretary Turner from the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and I know when people talk about federal land and they show pictures of national parks and beautiful forests and snow-capped peaks, we were standing next to a 4-lane highway with a center turn lane with billboards on either side of us on a piece of ground that had no water, some sagebrush. It was basically desert, and that was going to go to the city of Henderson to use for affordable housing. The dollars come in to the federal government, and then we use those dollars for enhancing recreational opportunities on other Bureau of Land Management land. So this is not good or evil, sell or not sell. This is all contextual within a local community, within which parcel, which ground. Again, there's a small percentage of the federal land that we own that borders current urban areas that's not used for recreational or national parks. Would make a ton of sense for that to be considered, but it doesn't matter to me at all if it's part of this bill, because it's not something that is. It wasn't part of the president's agenda to be part of this bill in the first place. These were amendments that were tried to add in that may not make it in.
One question, not on Big Beautiful Bill, but related to the national parks, which you just brought up. Millions of Americans visit the parks every year, especially over the summer, and some have started reporting signs that they've seen. I just want to quote from them so I don't get it wrong. It says, asking visitors to these parks to report, quote, any signs or other information that are negative about the past or living Americans. Can you speak to sort of what's the impetus for those signs, what it is that you're asking Americans to report?
I'm not even understanding the question. Could you repeat that for me?
Yeah, so I guess there have been some signs that have popped up at a number of national
signs,
parks,
like a physical sign?
Yeah, like a physical plaque or something like that, that asks Americans to report any signs or other information they've seen that at the parks shows any negative information about current or former Americans. Is that anything your office is aware of?
First I've heard about it is right now, and I've been at national park units this very week, so I'm completely unaware of this.
Totally fair enough. I appreciate your candor there. I guess last question then, you've been making the case that this bill is really important for the president's energy dominance agenda specifically. What would it mean if Republicans are not able to reach consensus and not able to pass this bill for the president's energy policies? Well,
I'm confident they're going to reach a agreement. I think, again, being in a meeting with the president earlier today, meeting with Speaker Johnson today, talking to senators today, I'm very confident that they're going to get this thing done.
Anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to mention?
No, I would just say again, I said, for any American, whether you care about secure borders, whether you want to have more take-home pay, if you're someone like when I was growing up and working overtime every week at a job, the idea that you don't have to pay taxes on overtime, people that work in hospitality, no tax on tips, senior citizens, no tax on Social Security. There's so many positive things in this bill for Americans. I think again, it also bodes well when you lower taxes and when you lower regulations, and there's a lot of red tape that gets cut in this bill, you do those two things, the economy is going to grow, and it's going to grow faster. And when the economy grows, that's great for everyone. And if we have a pro-energy, like the President Trump does, pro-energy, then energy prices are going to come down. And when energy prices come down, that lowers the price of everything. So this is pro-small business. I mean, farmers and ranchers, like in my home state of North Dakota, this thing eliminates estate taxes on farms and ranches. These people that are cash poor but land rich, I've seen the heartbreak of families who, their father and mother pass away and they can't pass their ranch or farm on to their children because basically the death taxes, take away, and they have to break up the farm to sell it. So again, what this does for small businesses, farmers, ranchers, everyday working people, it's one of the most significant pieces of legislation that's ever been put forth. And I think every American, if they understood that, they should be calling their congressman, calling their senator, and say, hey, give us the 4th of July. Let's kick off the USA 250 celebration. Pass that bill, and think about us. Give us, the working Americans, a tax break.